since they were a kid. In the last year, they've taken their rhyming brain farts, their words not mine, beyond the journal and found that they don't stink. In recent months, they've won the Manchester-based One Mic Stand, come runner-up second place in the National Mind Over Slammer competition, and were dubbed great value for money by Simon Armitage. So, like, yeah, not bad at all. I'm so excited to welcome them on stage. Please, everyone, give a massive round of applause for Biz.
Sorry, I'm above average height. Hello. So, as you now know, my name's Biz, and as much as I might wish it, my day job's not this. I actually pay my bills as a data analyst, which means I glean trends using statistics, collate multiple single instances to investigate relationships, and accept or reject a null hypothesis. Translation for those of us who don't speak mathematics, I'm paid to make educated, backed by data guesses. Not super poetic, but there's power in it. Since the rapid expansion of technification, the so-called data revolution, this kind of thing's shaping our every experience. I mean, what was the first thing you did this morning? If you're anything like me, you're straight on a screen, mindlessly scrolling through some kind of feed that's been perfectly curated based on what you've liked previously. Maybe, having faffed through 2 or 3 apps, you check Google Maps to see if your tram's on track, which you'll pay for with a contactless tap, and get Spotify to fill the gap you lacked imagination to on your commute, all the while snooped on by CCTV, so that if you're like me, within an hour of being awake, you've left a data lake in your wake, which goes beyond what bands you rate, but pertains to location, knows your finances, your face. And there's power in that. Come on, we've all been had by personalised ads. I know I have. But did you hear about the girl whose shopping gave an algorithm enough information to deduct her situation? Indicative of a bun in the oven, Target's targeted ads let her dad know it was coming. He knew before she'd even consulted Clearblue. It's true. We're so oblivious to the power we have, just going about our day-to-days training systems to be creeps, or in the case of Kent Police, inherently bad. They've been using this tech called predpol, which tells them where to find the next criminal. By clustering existing convictions, its systems make predictions which are said to be 10 times more efficient than random patrols. And since it's not based in social divisions, they said its fairness is a given, but the police's fairness isn't. They consistently arrested those they thought suspicious, which is a very good proxy for not white or privileged, meaning the data training system is systematically racist. And guess what? As the tech got more of these so-called crimes convicted, it reinforced its logic and became more of a bigot, because without a conscience, algorithms don't question patterns. Without regulation, they just proliferate oppression. Now that is power in action. We're handing over the reins. These days, so much of our lives are automated. We've delegated task after task to computational processes, more efficient than us machines maximize profit. But the question is, who's profiting off it? Because I'll be honest, I haven't a clue what goes on in these algorithmic black boxes, and I'm an analyst. I'm salaried to know it. But I do know this. If something is free, chances are you're the commodity. So manage your cookies, declare your preferences. That data lake you've made, it's yours. Take back some power and choose what it's for. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. It's brilliant to be here. To my shame, this is the first time I've ever come to Macclesfield. I had a wonderful morning wandering around the market. We even had a fiddle player play what felt like a personal rendition of one of my flatmates' favourite songs. We sat there and enjoyed it in the breeze. But yeah, I got the train over. It's only 20 minutes. And between Stockport and Macclesfield, I began to feel something wasn't quite right. I felt kind of light, kind of lost, not fully put together, like I was missing something. And with a sinking feeling, I realised I forgot to put on my rings this morning. I'd forgive you for thinking me silly, but I began to panic about how I'd manage without their talismanic energy. Mostly, I worried I'd fluff it without my grandma with me. He usually sits on my left index finger, her green eyes captured in pyrite, which is why I've got this safety hat on. To hide my bedhead, yes, but also so I don't feel as naked and alone, because it too is from my grandma's wardrobe. So thank you everyone for letting me be here, dressed for the rain. Yeah, based in Manchester, moved there a couple of years ago with a very dear pal of mine. Bria, give us a wave. And it was her great idea to move. I'd actually never been to Manchester before I went there, which is, you know, bold. And I think this poem was written sort of like a few days in, which kind of explains my headspace at the time. Moved flat, moved life, moved base, moved myself from A to big city, moved mountains, made molehills, made them insurmountable, managed the ascent with help from a friend, made myself have the conversation, which in turn made me cry, made myself stop asking why, mentally checked out, drifted, dissociated, floated for a bit before touching this new base again. So you can get a sense of where I was at that point, doing my best impression of Mr. Messy from the Mr. Men, living as a scribble. And to sort of like unravel myself, I started going on these big, long rambles to work out where the fuck I was. And the more I wandered around, the more I became aware of like this strange segregation that no one was talking about that feels inherent in Manchester. How well do we know Manchester in the room? Anyone give you a whoop? Win for Biz, you might get this reference. So, do you guys think the pigeons in Islington look down on the ones from Piccadilly Gardens, who, hardened by the concrete plots, scoff and sick and haven't got a full set of toes? Or am I pigeonholing the avian Islingtonians as obnoxious new Mancunians, tarring them all with the same brush and branding them homogenously posh because they nest in the M4 postcode? Surely, though, you've noticed how the pigeons are different? It can't just be their diet. Although it is a flex to get to peck on pollen sourdough without the need to buy it. I'm undecided if the central flock have ever even tried it. I reckon they've got to be invited, because if looks are anything to go by, these birds are divided. They might all fly in the same sky, but there are no flights of fancy over Great Ancoat Street, which seems to me to be the boundary of squab society, delineating the downtrodden and often trodden on from the urban bird elite. But who decided which kit got what bits of the city? Well, a little bird told me that our footless friends of Piccadilly were deemed too ugly by UAE investors when they furtively funded council plans for the new Islington development. Deemed a feathered deterrent for the intended creative class of resident, the pigeons were ousted by the council at some oil baron's insistence. Swathes of evictions sparked out of season migration for families of pigeons who've been at the marina for generations. The unjust relocation to Piccadillic pastures new made palatable by the title Urban Regeneration, when really it was a means to displace them, to make way for the Columbity bourgeoisie and their disposable income. And this all happened at a rate so rapid that the new neighbourhood is less organic than the bread served at the countless fledgling cafes. Fast-paced change has created a piecemeal place with space allocated to make the most money. Rubbing a separatist underbelly, the urban design focused on the few, not the many. And to really squeeze out the pennies, they designated the creation of community space as low priority, a choice that leaves paltry places for distinct groups to gather and makes the hanging out together more difficult than ever. It's a choice that extends the existent loss of hubs, as most pigeon pubs didn't survive the bird flu infestation. It's a choice that limits the potential for connection and perpetuates segregation. So if the birds have decided to engage in tribalism, I don't blame them. Since that first appearance-based decision, they've had to live in constant competition. Spurred on by suspicion, they only relate in opposition. They don't see what is. They solely see what isn't. If, in the face of capitalism, pigeons have forgotten their communion, then who are we to judge them? Are we any different? Do you think there are people in Islington who look down on the ones from Piccadilly Gardens? Thank you. So yeah, it took me a hot minute to settle into Manchester. I grew up in a village in Kent in between Ham and Sandwich. Yeah, they are real places. I grew up in between Ham and Sandwich, where there was 2 buses a day, one to town, one back to town. So moving to Manchester was pretty overwhelming to begin with. But once settled, I realised I loved the place, but not the reason that I'd moved there, the aforementioned data analytics job. Anyone here love their job?
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.
Some slow responses there. We're all in this together, guys. Because so far, I found 9 to 5 is a drag. Like fish hanged by plastic pool cans, suit ties strangle the life from people. Necks wrung for rungs on ladders, breath expunged in the pursuit of something better, something more, for the next big thing. A carrot on a string so enticing we ignore the sting of the stick, make ourselves sick, forget to feel, so intent on the next destination on this hamster wheel. Forever running, rushing, pushing on, we've become passengers in our own hearse, and we curse how slow it moves. Buying into the ruse of shoulda, woulda, couldas, oughts, must, trust the system and give in to fingertip living, our palms grow soft because we're forever palming off the important stuff. Life admin lists lengthen and old age beckons as you plough on ahead until retirement, because that's the upwards of this onwards. At some point, you'll be old and able to spend all day, every day, in your pyjamas. Free to spend all day, every day, chasing your bliss, which, in my case, is writing poems. So it came as no surprise to everyone but me that data was not my calling. And I started looking around for other things. And I was applying to this job the other day, and I got to that bit where you have to tick the box you best fit in terms of ethnic background, gender and shit, except it's not shit, is it? But I just gave it away. They get you in on it early. I remember when, age 10, there was family consensus as we filled out the census. Mum let me know which nouns were me, prescribed my identity to be recorded as she, indefinitely. Even then, as a kid, panopticoned into it to know the right and wrong derivative, the power attributed, and I've become so apathetic in sharing it. These bits that make me a whole, static concepts that don't really reflect me at all, and employ a language that feels alien, despite being distinctly personal, instinctively recognisable, invented yet unequivocal, personal, political, limitedly divisible. Essentially, I'm a 1, or I'm a 0. So I'm this, or I'm that. Fact. No fluidity. Singularly, I'm to be what this box has said of me, this fixed entity, more easily summarised as a data entry. And to live my life simply, I've learned to subscribe to the binary, clung to the stability that's afforded me, because everybody knows the harmony of complete concession to the hegemony. Maggie would be so proud of me. As a good little citizen in her neoliberal kingdom, I've internalised and enforced inherited systems of oppression, policed myself like an obsession, demonised my inherent dynamism and forced myself to fit into one dimension so that, with time, through a process of attrition, regularly relinquishing my information, I've disengaged from the datafication, become distanced from the subject of this digitisation. Me. I forgot who they might be. Slowly, I've begun to believe a lie that lies at the base of our society, that I am my taxonomy. I mean, that's just basic biology. But I disagree. You cannot define a person so reductively. You cannot describe my identity mathematically. I am not an equation that fits every persuasion. I am not a scalar quantity. I am quantum. I move with purpose in all directions. I am a spectrum. Spectacular in my inspecificity, I will not be defined using another's vocabulary. I will not be curtailed to maintain processing capacity. I am not to be boxed. My box is not me. Said as much in the interview, and they didn't hire me. So yeah, thank you, by the way, to John for the prompt on that first one. Like fish hanged by pool cans, epic. And yeah, thank you everyone for sharing your words tonight. It's been really beautiful to listen, sit back. I've now lost my place. But yeah, I think, you know, we kind of live in this world where there's these invisible lines, you know, clean pigeons, scruffy pigeons, the right job, the wrong job. It's kind of weird that you play this game and you abide by these rules without really noticing. I don't know, maybe that's just me. But then you start to sort of think about things and unpick things in your brain, and like, do you ever wonder in the modern culture with subverting gender, why we've assigned one to nature? Would we so ruthlessly pillage Gaia if we called her father? It's a subtle linguistic shift which reveals the hidden dynamic, a rhetoric so embedded we never question it, instead let it unfettered reinforce the edifice of privilege. Some say it began when Prometheus thieved fire from the gods to gift to men, and Zeus took revenge by inventing a girl with a pathos she wasn't to open. Pandora, whose name with cloying symbolism is literally all giving, gave in, and laid the foundations for gender-based subordination. She became the antithesis of man, the yin to his yang, her opposite to make her less than, and it became the accepted way of seeing, where every being and thing, inanimate or living, is given a group, an encoded antipode where one rules and the other's subdued. And when Western civilization marked itself as the arbiter of truth, it colonized the world whilst cleaving it in two: man, woman, rational, emotional, natural, cultural, wild, disciplined, in, out, north, south, east, west, worst, east, west, worst, best, left, right, black, white. Right now, it's me and you. I can't shape the indoctrination that shaped my view. Play spot the difference without meaning to. It's my default position to be removed. And there's safety in distinction. By marking myself as apart from and not a part of the destruction, I can watch on as we drive other people and other species to extinction, because the irony is this systemic bifurcation culminates mostly in a presence and an absence. But I've not forgotten my Greek legends. We might be following Pandora and destroying unearthly wonder, but we still have Prometheus's gift of hope. And I know these woke wars feel like they're causing further schisms, but just think how your feelings change when I implied a little difference. What if we called Gaia Father? Why not use that parental prism to refract your way of thinking? Step back and take in the semiotic matrix we all swim in, not waving but drowning, still sinking into that colonial cleaving where we gender Earth to infer she's ripe for the picking. But in this modern culture, we can reconsider our position, deconstruct established definitions and remove that base of separation. We are each in on this conspiracy we call humanity, so let's escape the tyranny of rationality and seek our own truth. Depart from Descartes and embrace Ubuntu, that I am only me with the context of you. And together, I've hoped there's a lot we can do. Thank you. It's hard, right? It's hard unpicking those long-held assumptions. Like I use they, them pronouns, the number of times I've misgendered myself, the number of times other people misgendered me. Like, we've been living in this world of lines for our whole lives. Like, let's be forgiving. And one that I've got really stuck on, where it's like, why do I think this way, is smoking. Because smoking's gross, innit? Financially, it's a definite deficit. An outgoing with growing bad credit, a carcinogenic that leaves you fetid, stinking like an ashtray with fingertips that are nicotine stained, and I'm ashamed to say I indulge in the habit. I only recently conceded it's not a passing characteristic to later be chaptered with other things I did whilst young and stupid. Nah, this is more than a dabble in the masochistic. I admit it, folks. I smoke. I'm addicted. It's indefensible and unbelievable that it still feels kind of cool, subversive. I swear it's ingrained in my psyche. See smoking, read creativity, an inclination for anarchy, hedonistic tendencies. But then again, it's hardly surprising considering we've been drip-fed this narrative since the early 60s, when the tobacco industry clocked post-war women kept their jobs and co-opted the gender role shift as an opportunity to double their market, work to change what we, the consumer, associate with a lethal product. Through aggressive and repetitive messages, they edited our collective memory to forget it leads to death, and instead appealed to desire, conspired to build this idea that smoking means power. You all know the scene. Attractive woman takes drag from cigarette, turns head and says something assertive. Even miming it feels seductive, and it's completely constructed. Classic consumer capitalism, shift the socio-political condition with subliminal messaging, mould our minds to associate cigs with dominance, sex, rebellion, speak to our individualism, sell us what we cannot have in a packet of silver Bensons, live the Marlborough way and live in freedom. It's a Faustian bargain. Trade your lungs for rungs on an imagined ladder. My gullibility doesn't escape me. Don't kid a kidder. Smoking's not cool, it's not big, and it's not clever. But nicotine just hits different with cognitive dissonance, doesn't it? That mild discomfort at knowing that what you're doing has absolutely zero benefits. In fact, it's almost entirely negatives. The main incentive, symbolic status invented to make profit, but my cough's not yet productive enough to make me stop it. I find the ritual of rollies is almost meditative. Tuck in with a thumb and seal with a lick, then once lit. Reconnect with your breath for just a minute. Try to forget about the toxins in it. Take each toke with a turned blind eye and indulge in a wrapped-backy gift of time to self amongst the hectic. Satiate your cravings, let your brain frog lift, and have a moment to be selectively reflective. Now, I can tell by your faces who's also gaslighting themselves on a daily basis. I'll see you outside in a bit. We can meet with Mephistopheles and puff on our cancer sticks. Thank you. Trying to be more forgiving of myself. I think we can all be more forgiving of ourselves. And I find, poetry is a good way to sort of start to unpick those things, start to ask questions. People say it's like free therapy. I've been using it a long time like that. This poem was actually written a long time ago when I was trying to explain to my dad why I was okay. And yeah, this kind of explains how I came to poetry. You say that I need therapy, that I've got years of processing ahead of me, and with a need for CBT hereditary, it would seem that my genes know this territory, but bear with me. I'd argue that my answer is in poetry. You see, to write a rhyme, you must first have clarity, must have sifted through memories objectively, understood feelings and actions enough to see a narrative to then pen and say rhythmically. A poem is more than just words. Don't get me wrong, a lot are just fun and some frankly absurd, that by my writing just makes me a nerd. For a long time, I've seen it as such, and never thought logging my noggin's contents would amount to much, but as my peers have prescribed sertraline hydrochloride, I've realised my brain dumps keep me in touch with what's on upstairs. Why and when I care, or don't care. A basic understanding that my mates don't share. Parceling up past experience in a poem requires frank conversations that I've had without knowing. Without expectation, I've ended up going through a lengthy aggregation of emotional growing, and it's showing. You say you're surprised at how well I know myself. At my age, feelings should arise and be felt, not analysed, understood, and easily shelved. And I understand your confusion. If my friends are the norm, then my clarity is unusual, but I'm by no means individually exceptional, just have poetic perusal in my cognitive arsenal. That's all. Thank you. I'll finish with a little one. So yeah, I've been writing for a very long time, but it's only kind of in like the last year that I've started doing things like this and sharing. And it's been a really lovely thing. You know, I've met so many beautiful people, you know, faces in this room included. And I think it's a really special thing to, you know, share these things. So I'll share with you, but I'm going to ask you a favour. Share with each other, because social connection is a form of medicine. It's been linked to day-to-day satisfaction, can help limit the effects of depression, and has been shown to help your immune system function. So please, do me a favour and turn to your neighbour. I'm hoping you might not know them, but either way, just jump into a natter, sit back and relax into mindless chatter, go wild with the subject matter. It's all about getting to know each other better, both making and taking that connective medicine together. Thanks so much, guys. Thanks for having me.
This is very high. One sec, sorry. Hello. Give it up for Biz. Fucking hell. Oh my god. It's been absolutely incredible. I'm genuine. I'm so happy. Right, we're gonna have a little break for 20 minutes. Oh my goodness. We're gonna have a 20-minute break, which means that we will be coming back at 10 past 10. 10 past 8, not 10 past 10. It's a lock-in. 10 past 8, please come back.